morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, well, I've got some more of that news from my lovely contact over in Japan. You see, Sword and Shield is gonna start leaking soon. We're getting close to the time where Sword and Shield will be leaking over in Japan. And that means that shops over in Japan are given information about upcoming cards to try and stoke a little bit of interest in the set. Well, the good news is we've been given some of that information. I'm going to tell you about a lovely new draw item here and just correct or add on a little bit to the news that we talked about. I think it was last week when we talked about these. So first of all, we are getting an updated version of Bicycle. And this updated version is slightly different. It reads, when you play this card from your hand, your turn ends. Draw until you have 6 cards in hand. Oh, yeah, that's pretty gosh darn good. Although it's pretty gosh darn good with a fairly gigantic caveat. And that is that it ends your turn. Now, this isn't exactly completely unprecedented. There have been plenty of cards that have ended our turn and still been good. I mean, Kiawe, pretty gosh darn good card that ended our turn. Let you search your deck for 4 fire energy and attach them to one of your Pokemon. In fire decks, it was an absolute must-play right up until the point it got rotated. It is just about to rotate in Japan, and it is still seeing play over in Japan. It's a really good card. But probably the best parallel we've got here is Tropical Beach. Tropical Beach is a stadium card that we had for 2 World Championships in a row as the kind of you've qualified for Worlds card. And it let you draw until you had 7 cards in hand and your turn ended. But of course the thing with Tropical Beach was that it was a stadium card, so you could use it turn after turn after turn. And make no mistake about it, this will provide a very similar function to that which Tropical Beach did. Now, there is a slight parallel we can draw with Lily here, but it's not exactly the same. So Lily, for instance, on your first turn, lets you draw until you've got 8 cards in your hand. That is phenomenal. But after that, it only lets you draw until you've got 6 cards in your hand. But then it's still useful. Lily is still something you can play with after your first turn. And this is, but just like with Kiawe, there is a gigantic difference between using this turn 1 and using it any other turn. Of course, the ideal here is using it turn 1, going first. Because remember, when you go first, you cannot attack. And generally you end your turn when you attack. So as a usual course of action, you go first, and you do what you want, and then you pass your turn. Well, you might as well play this at the end of your turn, and then of course you're drawing until you've got 6 cards in hand at the end of your turn. I mean, as far as end of turns go when you can't attack, that is incredibly strong. Perfect? No. Strong? Absolutely. Because you see, we're also getting a new rule coming very, very soon. Well, it's not been confirmed outside of Japan, but Japan are syncing up their rotation with ours. It looks like we're headed to near simultaneous releases. That's not confirmed. That is a prediction. I think for a decent reason, but it is just a prediction. And we're going to have, the same rotation. So clearly, we're going to end up with this rule as well. And the rule is that you can no longer play a supporter card on your first turn going first. You can't play a supporter card, you can't attack, what can you do? And you've basically got 2 options here. Item draw and Pokemon draw. If you want to draw into all of the things that you want to help yourself get set up, you got Pokemon and items. And at this stage, I cannot be the only one thinking Dedenne and this. Now, Dedenne is amazing. It will remain amazing. You play it down onto your bench, you discard your hand, you draw a new hand of 6 cards. It's officially brilliant. But now you can potentially draw into this. Now, I suppose another little bit of context here. Dedenne is limited to 1 per turn. So if you play Dedenne and draw into a second Dedenne or a way to search your second Dedenne, you still can't play it. But here you can play Dedenne, find the bicycle, play the bicycle, and then all of a sudden you're getting a much more explosive start. And make no mistake about it, when we're heading into a format where you can't attack going first, and you can't play a supporter card going first, we're all going to be on the lookout for the way to have the most explosive turn 1. And the way to have the most explosive turn 1 looks to be Dedenne into bicycle. Now, one of the other cards I showed you the other day, or at least told you about, we don't have images of these, was a new Quick Ball. And Quick Ball lets you discard a card from your hand and then search for a basic Pokemon. Well, brilliant. This is going to be very much like Ultra Ball and Lily. Ultra Ball, you discard 2 cards from your hand and then search yourself a Pokemon. But then if you played Lily, you had 2 fewer cards left in your hand, not counting the Ultra Ball, so you're thinning out your hand a little bit so you can draw more with Lily. Well, that's what Quick Ball's going to do here. You thin out your hand a little bit while searching out a basic, and then because you've got fewer cards in your hand, or at least 1 fewer card, 2 if you include the Quick Ball, you're now drawing more cards with bicycle. On turn 1, I don't really see much of a better option. In a format where Tropical Beach has rotated, Kiawe has rotated, you're not allowed to attack, you're not allowed to play a supporter, I mean, yeah. Now, actually, no, I'll give you one example. If you're playing a fossil Pokemon deck, you'll probably want Pokemon Research Lab. To be fair, Pokemon Research Lab, if you're playing a fossil deck, is probably a better option turn 1, because it lets you search for 2 Pokemon that evolve from unidentified fossil, put them straight onto your bench, so not only are you getting 2 Pokemon, but you're actually getting 2 stage 1s, and avoiding going through unidentified fossil, so that is actually better. But outside of a fossil deck, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better turn 1 option. But then, of course, we get to this awkward situation of, how many do we play? And we had this with Kiawe, except Kiawe at the time could be very easily searched out with something like Tapu Lele. Now, to be fair, this can be very easily searched out as well with something like Green's Exploration, for instance, except that's a supporter card and you're not allowed to play it turn 1 going first. And that is really when you're going to want bicycle. If you're playing a setup deck such that you don't want to attack, this is also great turn 1 going second, because you can do your thing, play a supporter, play a Dedenne, and use this. And if you've got a draw supporter, and Dedenne, and bicycle, that is going to be a very explosive turn, and you really are going to be getting set up. But the problem is, any turn where you're playing this, you're ending without attacking. And that is awkward. So if you go first, great. If you go second but you're playing a setup deck and aren't planning on attacking, great. And also if you're playing like a blocking deck. If you're playing something like, well, like we used to do with Wailord, I suppose you could do it nowadays with the new Wishy-Washy, for instance, whereby you're just trying to stop your opponent taking prizes. Keldeo would be another example. Or we've got the Bronzong, which is immune to fire Pokemon. In these decks, you will often end your turn without attacking, because it's not really about you attacking, it's about your opponent not attacking. So here, you're absolutely fine just playing bicycle. But in the middle of a game, you're not going to want it. Now look, okay, maybe you get reset stamps to 1, and then you draw one of these, and okay, it does end your turn, but you get to essentially just draw a new hand of 6 cards. That will be amazing, but you're still not attacking. And that is the issue. It will see a lot of play. But the problem is the best ways to search it are supporters, and you want it mostly on turn 1 going first, and you can't use a supporter turn 1 going first. If you could, this would be an automatic guaranteed one-off in every Green's Exploration deck and a whole bunch of others. As it is, it's still a great card that's going to see quite a lot of play. Now, I did warn you at the beginning of the video, and I will have put a timestamp in the description. I do have an appendix for one of the cards I looked at the other day. I told you that we were getting an item card that if you had one of your Pokemon KO'd the previous turn, let you draw until you had 7 cards in your hand. Now that is still true. However, it's not just an item, it's a tool. Although I want it on record that items include tools, so technically we were correct. This is always the difficulty of having news leaked like this, is that sometimes you will be missing a piece of information. Essentially, it turns into a reprint of Lucky Egg. You attach it. When it's knocked out by damage from an attack, you draw till you got 7 cards in your hand. Still a good card, and with Choice Band gone, there's no one tool that we're all playing, and with Field Blower gone, it is way more difficult to get rid of tools. So even though Lucky Egg didn't see much play when it came around in the Arceus expansion, I could see it seeing a lot more play nowadays, because actually, it's really nice draw. I mean, we're all playing Oricorio GX, for goodness sake. Why would we not play 1 or 2 of these? And like I've said, the key point here, we are in a format where we don't have good tool removal. If we did, maybe I wouldn't feel so happy about this. Maybe I wouldn't be so in favour, but we don't, so I am and I do. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, as a side note, more recently, Lucky Helmet has actually been seeing a fair amount of play, or at least it did before it rotated out. And if Lucky Helmet can see play, when the Pokemon to which it was attached got damaged, you drew 2 cards. This is drawing till you got 7 in your hand, so come on. This could be pretty gosh darn good. My apologies, it is one of the difficulties, shall we say, of looking at these cards a little early. So thank you to my Japanese source, whoever they are, and I'm excited about this card. You should be excited about this card, but I'd like to know how excited you are, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WasiPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have any Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.